going to care about Nebraska inside of TikTok, or does anybody care about Nebraska? And I'm watching white people like respond to that white woman like, Nebraska didn't care about Nebraska. Who did you think was going to be in those positions of the immigrants you're losing, blah, blah. And they're missing the point. Nebraskans thought that niggas was going to go back. Like, they had the early 1800s back. That's what you're not seeing. It's not like they didn't think about that. No, they knew, okay, we'll lose our immigrants, but we're going to get our slaves back. And that, my good friends, is the problem.
I wanted to drop by today to talk about the Nebraska farmers situation again. And I know a lot of us, with all of the videos where we have been saying around, or at least I have been saying around, a lot of people were saying, you know, Nebraska didn't care about Nebraska, and why are we supposed to care about Nebraska, and Nebraska didn't care about Nebraska? How could Nebraska vote against their best interests by voting for mass deportation of their workforce? 60% of Nebraskans voted for Trump. 60%, 60. 65% of their workforce is illegal immigrants. 65. I was saying, why would you purposely go to get rid of your workforce and not have a backup plan for the people that you're getting rid of, especially if your business is relying on that workforce? Your hatred can't be that blinding and that overwhelming that you can't think about your bottom line, especially when it comes to your businesses. Some of these farms have been in those people's home, have been in those people's families for over 300 years. You can't tell me you did not think about who is going to come in and replace these vital workers for your survival. One thing I do keep thinking back on is Trump kept saying during this campaign that the illegals were here stealing the blacks' jobs. He just kept harping on the black jobs, and everybody was like, what the hell is a black job? Well, this is just my perspective, or it's just my thought. I'm thinking that the Virginians and all the rest of the people who were dependent on illegal immigrants for their labor, they kept hearing Trump saying that the black people jobs were being taken. I'm thinking in their minds, they were hearing Trump saying the black people are going to come back to those jobs. In my mind, I'm thinking they were hearing Trump says the black people are going to replace all those immigrants out in the fields and on the farms and all of that. I'm thinking that's what they were hearing. That's why they weren't messed up about voting to get rid of their illegal immigrants. They were thinking that the black people were going to step up and take those jobs back because Trump kept saying these illegal immigrants are stealing the blacks' jobs. And therefore, in their mind, they heard we were getting our 1,800 slaves back. They had to have thought that their backup plan, Trump was going to miraculously, somehow, magically put all the black people back out in those fields, on those farms, and they were going to continue to get their work done. Now, that's just my thinking, because you cannot tell me that you, as a business owner, would get rid of your workforce and not have a backup plan. You are not going to knowingly and willingly walk into a bankruptcy, walk into losing your business, walk into losing your farms that have been in your family for 300 years unless you thought there was a backup plan. And the backup plan was supposed to be the blacks. That's why y'all ran out there and voted against your best interest, because when you heard Donald Trump said they were stealing the blacks' jobs, y'all in your twisted mind thought that the blacks were going to magically appear back in those positions. The blacks were just going to be coming from everywhere to take on those positions. plan to come in after the immigrants would be deported. You can't convince me that people who own those farms and worked on those farms, you cannot tell me that you looked at that and saw your workforce and you know what your workforce is made up of. And you purposely went out there and said, yeah, get rid of all of them with no backup plan. You know what it takes to run your farms. You know how many people it takes to run your farms. There is no way you got rid of all of those people and did not expect to have somebody to come in and pick up the slack. Y'all thought y'all were getting slaves back. You had to have thought that. You had to have thought black people were going to be the ones replacing the immigrants and you would not miss a beat. But when those immigrants fled and those fields became empty and those farms became deserted, then y'all want to run around crying, does anybody care about Nebraska? Does anybody care about Nebraska? No. Let's go back. What was your thought process as to when the immigrants go, when they deport them, what was your thought process on who was going to come in and pick up that slack? Because 60% of y'all went out there and voted for Trump. So what was that 60% thinking? What was your plan B? For when the immigrants are gone, who was going to come in, step in, and pick up that workload and get your bottom and keep your bottom line moving? What was that thought process? Who were the replacements for the illegal immigrants that you guys went and voted against? Who were the replacements? You guys thought it was going to be black people. Y'all thought Donald Trump was going to magically make black people appear in y'all farms and on y'all fields to get their work done. Why? I have no idea. Other than he kept saying that they were taking the black jobs. Y'all thought that just because he said that, black people were going to be running down there to them fields? It's absolutely bizarre. You can't convince me y'all put everything, your whole life, y'all whole livelihood, generations of farms being in y'all family. You can't tell me you put that up at risk and did not have a backup plan. You can't tell me y'all purposely destroyed y'all lives and y'all farms without having a backup plan to replace the illegals. It's just not making sense. But racism never has made sense.
What happens to Nebraska's farmers? Imagine this situation whereby, as a farmer in US, Nebraska state, you decide, you know what, I'm gonna vote for these people who are assisting me in my farm to be deported back to their original country. Those are the Mexicans who are in America illegally. So when they go back, then you realize as a farmer who is in Nebraska, like, oh my God, we have no workers to help us to manage our farms. Oh, maybe the blacks will do that. Maybe we'll rewind back to the 18th century when we used to have slaves. That's basically what the Nebraska farmers thought, that the black community are the ones who are going to work on those farms. You have news for you. There's nobody to work for you. The black community, hello, they're no longer going back to the slavery time. That time has passed. Now is the time for you as a Nebraska farmer to realize you made a mistake. You voted against your best interest at heart. So what's going to happen to you? I don't know. Only time will tell. But this should be a wake-up call to everybody else who decides, you know what, when I decide to cast that vote, I need to know who am I voting for, because what's happening to the Nebraska farmers right now, it's painful to watch, because farmers right now, they are getting losses, heavy losses. They don't have workers to work on their farms. Secondly, they don't have, a cushion. The government has cut down on all cushion aid for the farmers. Yes, in America right now. Then we have the tariff war between China and America. So China has literally looked for alternative market, and they have refused to buy produce from Yes, from the US farmers. That is the meat, that is the soybeans. All this is the farmer who's going to pay the heavy cost. And now some farmers right now, they're literally losing their farms. They're literally occurring losses, and some of them, they're saying, you know what, I don't think I'll be able to manage this farm. I'll not be able to pay the mortgage of this farm. I'll not be able to pay my bills. So right now they're looking for alternatives, and some of them, they literally shut down their farmers, or they're closing them, or they're selling them out. So who's to be blamed for this? Who's to be blamed for this chaos? Because for a long time, the farmers, the Nebraska's farmers, and all the farmers who voted the Republican way, they were told, you know what, if you vote this way, this is what's going to happen. When the current administration was voted the first time, of course farmers also suffered at that time, and now this is the second time, and now farmers are still suffering because literally the administration has turned their back on the farmers. And remember, 98.9% of these farmers are the ones who voted majority for this current administration to be in office. They say, when you're told, please be careful who you voted for, please be careful because their consequences are here, and now this is the reality. This is karma, and they're feeling it. So the next time you're told, vote wisely, vote for the person who has your best interests at heart. This is the time you need to remember all the lessons you have learned, so that come the next election, you know who you're voting for, you know who has your best interest at heart. Let me know what you think about this. What about these Nebraska farmers, when they thought about the black community will literally be the ones to go to these farms and farm for them? They're literally thinking the slavery time is gonna be rewinded back in this 2025, the year 2025. It's not gonna happen. That time has passed. That time is long gone. So the Nebraska's farmer, they need to carry their cross. They need to learn from this experience the hard way, so that the next election, they know who has the best interest at heart, and they need to choose wisely. Let me know what you think about this video, and drop your comments and subscribe to my channel.